On October 20th, 2021, the Kingdom of the Netherlands donated $14.14 million to the United Nations Development Programme to help support access to justice and strengthen human rights programs in South Sudan. The 4-year cooperation agreement aims to build the capacity of South Sudan justice and police organs to strengthen the rule of law. It is the continuation of the previous $12 million the Dutch nation had earlier given to UNDP 4 years ago. The latest donation strives to bring reforms in the security and justice systems as stipulated in Chapter 1 and Chapter 4 of the 2018 Peace Agreement on the resolution of the conflict in South Sudan. Dr. Samuel Doe is a UNDP resident representative in South Sudan.
The media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited this morning as we gather here for this very, very special occasion. Let me start by underlining that this occasion is a result of a long-standing partnership between the government and people of South Sudan and the United Nations Development Programme and the people and government of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This is not the first of our partnership, especially with Netherlands. Across UNDP globally, the people of the Kingdom of the Netherlands have been one of our, in fact, our consistent partner when it comes to access to justice and rule of law. The late Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, once said that all humans have the inalienable right to larger freedom. And what are those larger freedoms? The freedom to live in peace and security, the freedom to express ourselves, the freedom to have all of the opportunities to achieve our human potential. A larger freedom is at the heart of the work that the United Nations Development Programme does, but most especially the work we do in access to justice and rule of law. There is no freedom, there is no larger freedom in societies where there is no access to justice and that the rule of law is not preeminent. The Kingdom of the Netherlands and the United Nations Development Programme, with the government and people of South Sudan, in 2017 and to 2020, had similar ceremony in which we signed to a commitment, resources provided by the Kingdom of the Netherlands of $12,355,430 that was used for those 4-year period to work across South Sudan on access to justice, rule of law, and human rights. So this is the second commitment, the second in the face of our long-standing work here in South Sudan. And as Judy said, a country that is on the path of building itself. So today, we will be signing a 4-year program beginning in August, as I understand, although Judy says October, of $14,140,000 United States dollars. And as Judy had indicated, this will allow us to work with the government of South Sudan in achieving the revitalized agreement for the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, specifically in Chapter 1 and Chapter 5 that focus on transitional justice, judicial reforms, and the security sector. We express our deep appreciation again to the Kingdom of the Netherlands for this continued support and partnership to the people of South Sudan through the United Nations Development Program. We want to underline our continued commitment to be a partner of choice for the government and people of South Sudan in delivering services, especially in strengthening the country's path towards sustainable development in a peaceful environment where people live in just, inclusive, and equitable societies and communities. On this note, I want to thank you very much, and I'm anxiously looking forward to taking my pen and signing onto that document so that we can get to work. Thank you very much.
Dr. Doi said that the funding will also be used to build infrastructure, including courts, police stations, and equipping the facilities. Doi added that most of the programs are going to be community-centered to promote community policing on human rights issues and security. For his part, the Director of Administration and Finance, Joseph Marco, who represented the Ministry of Justice during the signing ceremony, said,
"So we are today here to witness the signing of the agreement between UADP and the government of Netherlands. So they put the commitment to support rule of law sector in South Sudan, and started from access to justice, as our sister mentions here. I just want to say this day today is not for talking. Yes, we want to assure our commitment that we in South Sudan and the rule of law sector, we are committed to work in partnership with the minister, with the UNDP, so to achieve justice to our people and for the sustainable human right. As we all know, access to justice is the major factor wider contributed to the justice in any country, as well also contributed to the rule of law. If justice is not there, and that rule of law is not there, and human right is not there. So we are committed to work with the UNDP, the rule of law sector. Also, we have so long process with them. So we are under Chapter 5. We are working with the UNDP now these days. You can see making process of constitution making bill. We are going with them. Also, we are in the process of commission technical committee. So for our side, we did few remarks. We will say that we are ready on behalf of the Minister of Justice and the rule of law sector in South Sudan and people of South Sudan. We are ready to work with you and to achieve the justice and human right for our people. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Ambassador of the Netherlands and Head of Cooperation appeals to South Sudanese to resolve their differences through the justice system, but not through violence.
Absolute pleasure for me to be here and be able to make a few opening statements. Not because we want to show off what the Netherlands is doing and paying for this program. That's not important, but really to try to show that we would like to support the government and the people of South Sudan to develop their potential. And there are several issues which are required to do so. That is the important reason for us to be here. Judith has very eloquently already described the background of the project, so that saves me a lot of work, but I will not repeat that. But let me take you through a few stories, why this for us is so important to be here today. Last Friday I was in Malakal and I had a beautiful flight along the Nile and over the savannas. Obviously many areas along the Nile still flooded, which is tragic, causing misery. But being an ecologist and an agronomist, I could see all the potential of this country, untapped potential. Not only agricultural potential, also ecological potential, potential for tourism, and it's still all locked. You might have read the article in the newspaper last Friday, where a group of very brave women in Malakal took their own initiatives to fight human rights and violence within the community. That's a wonderful example of probably the most important resource and potential this country has as the people. Now, how can all this potential be unlocked? It's waiting. Because the potential I mentioned is not the only potential. If this is unlocked, there is direct investment from international private sector. They are not investing to the extent they could and should. Even the international community is not investing as much as we would like to and could. Now, there are several reasons for this. Obviously, we have the floods around the Nile, we have the COVID. But I think it's no secret that the violence and conflict situation in the country is paramount. That is the key on the door to unlock all this beautiful, large potential this country has for its development. That is why we are so happy to be here today, because any society, any developing society, needs a rule of law basis expressed through very transparent regulations and laws to guide and stimulate that process. You need it. Not only to unlock the potential, but also first and all to celebrate the human rights and make sure that every South Sudanese can celebrate and experience its human rights which they are legally entitled to. It's well described. That is why these activities I was just mentioned in Malakal of the women's groups are so important, because that's where it starts. I think Judith mentioned the community programs. That's where any development starts. Rule of law supports this. It will not be an easy process because we have the customary law, which goes back, and we had a very interesting discussion before we came to the office, before we came here, on this deep and very rich culture this country has. We can never ever forget that. Change always meets resistance, and you have to be cognizant to build in the customary practices into the common law practices. There's no way around it. In the end, what we should do is allow people who want to allow them to farm and not to fight. To be able to resolve conflicts, not through fighting and violence, but through the rule of law. Where everybody has the equal access to seek redress if they feel aggrieved, if they feel they have not been listened to, they have been wrongdoing in that sense. The rule of law will have to support.
One other institution to benefit from the programs is the National Prison Service. With the funding, UNDP is also expected to work with South Sudan civil society groups, youth and women groups to implement the programs. For ITV, I am Lasuba Memo.